Well, hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us again. Victoria has graced us again, and we're excited to bring this discussion as well. And just being really excited about this. If you haven't already watched the previous podcast, the previous addictions community session, go and do that. It is very rewarding, and she shares the first part of your testimony right there. The catalyst for what we're doing today. And so it's gonna be really exciting. And so today we're gonna just kind of jump right in if you're good or
I just want to say that we have made a collective decision, and we are happy to say that Victoria is going to become a permanent part of this, which is awesome. And yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to hearing how the progression of her story is. I've been looking forward to this because I don't even actually really know everything that she's involved in. So it's kind of interesting to me, and of course, who doesn't love to see success stories? And to me, that's what Victoria is a success story, and that she's she's paving.
Paving. B, not TH.
Yeah. Excuse me. A little too much coffee.
We're like on our collective fifth pod of coffee or something like that.
So she's paving the way for others to allow some success, or whatever that may mean. But so yeah, it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of this.
Yeah, it's gonna be really good. We're excited to have Victoria's perspective in this, and ongoing in these conversations that we're having, and hopefully it's really rewarding for all of us here, because again, this is about the community perspective and just the journeys that we're on, and how can we come alongside one another even more, and again, I want to just kind of anchor this in the Bible. It tells us that we overcome by the work of Jesus Christ and by our testimonies, by our stories, by what we've gone through, and being willing to share those stories. It is encouraging. Is it hard to do? Absolutely. Is it really nitty and gritty on some of the aspects of those stories? Absolutely. But those parts are what encourages others, and there's power in that. And so we're excited about this. We're excited about today. Been looking forward to this one for the last 2 weeks, and so this is going to be really good. And so to kind of rehash a little bit off the top of our memory here, again, go back and watch the previous one. But we kind of ended last time. We ended on you had just wrapped up the time you were given to be with your newborns, and you still had to serve the remainder of the sentence, and so you walked yourself in on your own, which is huge. That is really big.
Something I don't think I could have done.
I don't think there's a lot of people that would have done that. I think there's a lot of people that would have had some heavy pushback.
Well, it takes a lot for you to just walk yourself into a prison.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just kudos to her. I don't know that I could have.
Well, there's a really important. I think the strength of who you are, where you are now, is found in that moment. Because I mean, I know a lot of I'm going to use air quotations here. There's a lot of good people that I know who would get in trouble with the law. Well, the Bible says that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So when it comes to being good, it's like that's kind of very subjective. But the idea that there's a lot of good people out there who have to turn themselves in, and even my experience, there's a lot of people who are not willing to go that far and would rather wait to be picked up than to go in the door themselves. And so I just, kudos on that. And so that's kind of where we're at today. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Victoria, and you can take from here. So go ahead and kind of just clue us into the rest of the story and what is going on.
So I, on November 3rd, 2023, that is when I walked myself into the DOC to hand myself over to begin my prison sentence. And just really entail on an path that wasn't sure what I was doing. I just knew that where I was going wasn't somewhere I really desired to be. But I knew it had to be done to close that chapter in my life and move forward, because for years I had that hanging over me, like I couldn't continue on fully and plan ahead for the future until that was ended. And so I said goodbye to my family, I said goodbye to my baby, I said goodbye to my community, but it wasn't a goodbye because I was blessed with the fact that they were there with me. Like, may not physically have been with me, but they were there with me in spirit. I knew that they were supporting me, rooting for me. I get into the prison, Women's Shakopee Prison here in Minnesota, which on average holds about 572 women in the prison, which is like a small city for us, you know. It is not separated prison, so everybody is blended with everybody. So you have like drug addicts with thieves, with murderers, with, I mean, it's all, everyone's there.
So everyone's case, the variety of cases, you're all in one facility.
Yeah, I mean, just with different dorms, but you're not separated by levels. So it's not a level facility. So you never know who you sit down and have coffee with in the morning.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, we're all children of God.
Yeah.
You know.
We all made
wrongs, and so I went in and I was not, let me tell you. I went in and I had tears coming out of my eyes, but I had the biggest smile on my face because I believe that a welcoming soul, you know, you smile and you can bring in people that, you know, have that same or familiar feeling of wanting just to be at peace.
Yeah.
And I get in there and everything was known. I walked in with an 88-month sentence, 7.5 years, not knowing. I knew that I'd qualify for early releases, but I didn't know when. You know, on average, you wait about a year or two before you can be even included in those kind of programs. But I went in there with a faith that, like, I have a purpose. This has to be for a reason. You know, I'm not just here for nothing.
Right.
You know, and so as soon as I walked in those doors, I looked for every avenue. Like, what can I do? Where can I make things push forward? And it wasn't like, oh, I'm in prison, I'm a piece of crap mom, you know, because those are the things that are said to you from different aspects of people or different conclusions. Like, if you loved your kids, you wouldn't be here.
Right. And that's coming from people inside. And so I've never been arrested and incarcerated, but I was that teenager where my dad threatened me with it. I was that, if you don't behave, I'm gonna have you go. And so, but I can imagine, at least, I don't know, from a sanitized perspective, that, you know, going into a place like that is just, I'm here for the ride. I'm just going to bide my time. I'm going to sit here. And then you're left alone with your thoughts, and you got those other invasive thoughts. And so it's really easy to just dig your own hole.
Right. Yeah. And it's easy to sit in it.
Yeah.
You know, because when you go in there, it's not like everyone's like not all hunky dory and happy and like, oh, I'm in prison, you know. Yay.
It's not the Red Skelton. It's not the Red Skelton skit. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Red Skelton. There's that one skit where he's like, I'm gonna be arrested today so I can hang my stocking with the rest of the boys. Like, it's not like that at all.
No. And so for me though, I went in there, I was blessed to have a different set of lenses. Yes, I was mourning. Yes, I was grieving, you know, being separated from my babies that had never once been apart from me.
Right.
You know, they were birthed into a home that was healthy, loving, sober.
Yeah.
They knew not that life that I was being sentenced for from a lifetime that was before them.
Right.
Okay, so I'm in there mourning, but I knew that the only way that I could get back to them was to keep pushing forward.
Right.
The only way I could get back to my community was to keep pushing forward. Now, I had the blessing and the support of certain people in the DOC because I stayed faithful to my actions, because I stayed sober, because I had every excuse in the book not to. You know, I'm going to prison. I might as well get higher. I'm doing this. I might as well do this. Right. And so I didn't. And so because of that, though, I was opening doors that made people say, oh, hey, maybe people with long-term sentences can do good if their mind is right.
Right.
And that's what I kept saying to people, like, don't judge me because I'm here.
Right.
Like, help me make a way to be better and to continue to be better. So Ms. Kimlin is the parenting programmer there in the prison. She coordinates the Healthy Start program. which is that new law for incarcerated moms, that program that I was on prior to going.
Okay, so she's the one so not only did she make that phone call to reach out to you
Right.
initially, she's also in charge
of the parenting program there in the prison.
Wow.
So years ago, Shakopee was like the #1 parenting program facility that in the prison. Like they had all kinds of hands-on stuff with the kids during COVID though, and because the population rose, it all got enclosed and shut down more. So that like the connections to families was broken, just a lot of things that they lost out on.
So she's coming back in to rebuild.
Yes. So
essentially.
right. Well, and they haven't really had that ground to do so because in order to build, you need like the bricklayer and the paver. You need that, it's more than one person.
Right.
And so
trial and error.
Yes, trial and error. And so, we kept having trial and trial and trial. And then you really it's gotta come in all around and make full circle. And so here I am sitting in the prison like, no, why can't we do this? Why? And just pushing the envelope every day. And everyone's like, you just gotta calm down. And I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I know what I'm going home to. Like, I know I have babies at home waiting for me. I know I have a good life. I know I have a community. I know I have a God that loves me. I know that I'm here for a purpose.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. And so I kept pushing. I kept reaching out to everybody. Like normally people are like, oh, we don't talk to our case managers or we don't do this. I'm like, why not?
Right.
Why don't you? They're pertinent to your life.
If you develop a good relationship with these individuals.
Yeah.
There could be some benefits to
Well, and there's room for growth then because you see eye to eye. Like us sitting here, we're from 3 different levels of different views of life. It's like a kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
And then you look through it from one lens and you can see every different angle through one lens. And it's beautiful.
Different perspectives right there on why we have your perspective, hers, ours. Like it's not easy.
No.
And it can be a little exciting at times, but it does give a more holistic approach.
And if you have communication with these people, it also helps for direction because, I mean, obviously in prison, I your experience obviously is different than mine, but if I don't have any kind of direction, how am I to reach out and figure things out from prison? You know, so you need those people. So I like that you were communicative with them because for me, I was kind of fingered at everybody. I just didn't want to talk to them,
and part of it too is like male perspectives because I'm kind of the same way. Like I'm like, nope, I don't want to talk. I'm good.
Well, and basically though, you'll find that even in the women's prison, because they're already there on a sentence, they already feel like they're being punished. Okay. So then they're also feeling like, well, why should I do this? I'm here. And it's like that lost your tail kind of mentality. And it's
a whole bunch of teenagers.
Yeah,
when you're parenting a teenager and they get mad at you, you clam up.
Yes, and it's the environment you're in is the ones that you would choose to generally be around. So you can prairie dog it and find where you find similar beings, so in there.
I love that.
So because prairie dogs, they pop up and they find each other from the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they don't pop up and find like an owl, or they find each other.
You got to stick your head up.
Yes, and so I started with, I met a whole bunch of different individuals, and just, I kept smiling and I kept pushing through. And so when I went in though, my children were doing early intervention with early ed. And I was like, how can I stay involved with my kids how can I still parent from in prison?
That's a great question.
So I signed a whole bunch of releases for like Mayo Clinic, early intervention, physical therapy, health reach, and was like, how can I connect all these people so I can still be a part of my children's life in some sort of manner, while being walls apart. And so I was able to come up with a strategy where I got to, with the help of Miss Timlin and earlier intervention and Mayo Clinic, they all agreed to join in and become one. Meaning, so every Tuesday they'd come to my home here in Albert Lea, and through Zoom, I got to zoom in home for 1 hour to be a part of their physical therapy, their nutrition, their early education, with all these people that were hands-on with my children.
So, okay. Because this is huge. Because sometimes, many times, the assumption is when you get to prison, like you don't see anybody unless they come to you. And so you have this set up through your communication and connecting all these dots. You created weekly check-ins, regular weekly check-ins,
every Friday,
with not just with your children,
but with these caregivers.
But with the caregivers as well.
Yes, from all different areas of my children.
That's impressive.
And so that was like big for me. Like that actually helped keep me grounded because I still felt like I was still being a part of my children's life. I was still mothering. I was still, I wasn't hands on, but they got to physically see me. They got to, I got to see their growth through that.
Yeah.
Okay, so months go by, and I mean, it was wonderful and great. So in the prison, it's SHOCP, general population, and then there's CIP, which is the Challenge Incarceration Program.
Okay.
Boot camp, and so they used to be housed off property, but now they're all on the same property. So
COVID kind of.
Yep, and so now they all have like their separate buildings, but it's all in the same fence. So when I got accepted, I applied and got accepted into Teen Challenge, not Teen Challenge, sorry, in the Challenge Incarceration Program.
The CIP.
CIP. Yep. I was that
boot camp.
Yeah, boot camp.
Boot camp.
Yes, ma'am, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am.
Well, it does. Well, because you were showing us the group photo.
Yes.
And it looks very official. You're in uniform.
It's a military-based program.
That's awesome.
And only 7% of the community gets accepted into it.
Wow.
Okay, so.
So I got a question.
Yeah.
Real quick. So you're talking about you got all these individuals together so that you could do the Zoom and stuff like that. So why is that important for women who have just had children or are, you know what I mean? Like, can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So first and foremost, there's that bond you have with your children.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So here are my children that have never spent a day away from me. Not a day, and then they wake up. So Monday I go turn myself in. Tuesday they wake up and I'm not there.
Right.
So their whole life is turned upside down.
There's where's breakfast? Where's this program?
Yeah. Who are these people in my house? Who are all these people just trying to hands on be helpful, but in a sense like everybody has their own idea what helpful is.
Yep.
And a lot of people lose the idea that this is the home of the children. So as helpful as everyone was and as grateful as I am, the thing is no matter what, I was removed from the picture.
And they're not you.
Right. Do you think that that other women in the prison felt the same kind of way, or do you think that there was like once it was separated, it was kind of like, okay, I'm good on it?
No, so like I found, because I asked questions, just like even as down to like me deciding what kind of tennies I was preparing myself to buy to go to boot camp, I studied it. Like I sat down and I was like looking at people's shoes, like, hey, tell me about your shoe. Like, I don't want to buy 5 pairs of shoes. I want to buy 1 pair of shoes that would last me, serve its purpose, and get me home.
Right.
Yeah.
And so same aspect when it came to other moms, whether they had their children or they didn't have their children. I sit down and I'm like, so tell me, like, how's your connection with your kids? Like, what really is driving you? Why do you keep coming back?
Right.
Why is it, how could you want to keep coming back?
Right.
Why in your head would you risk that?
Yeah.
And there's that break and that connection. So once they get there, it's like a whole different world.
Right.
So when I was a teen, I was in boot camp.
Right.
And I did this thing where I was like, why remove us from our community when it's an illusional wall? Like, you can teach us things, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But then we leave that safe little haven area that's not our real community, and you put us back in our community.
Right.
And then all those walls aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's like, same thing as adults. I'm finding that it's the same thing. They go to prison and it's like a break. Like, they're just like, nope, this is work, this is home, that's prison, that's home, that's the street.
Very compartmentalized.
Yes. And that's where their safety net comes in. Like, that's where even I've done that my whole life. Where you put that categories.
Yep.
Where I integrated my home life and my parenting and this great community that I Change the Lens, Belly of the Beast or Heart of the City.
Yeah.
Brought with me. So
Yeah.
I brought with me these God-fearing people that love the Lord. I brought with me these doctors that were interested in growth.
Yeah.
And change. And I brought with me, and I made sure that I didn't break that connection.
Well, and I think, and that's kind of like for your question there is, why is that so important? Is because you're not separate, you're not breaking that world. They're like, you're
with her.
I'm not just inmate 250371.
Right.
I am a mom, a daughter, a friend, all these things.
And you made sure that what you did, you didn't have that identity, you maintained that identity. Because that's huge. I as a parent, I am raising 3 kids, and my role as pastor is, believe it or not, and as controversial or not, my role as pastor is not as important as my role as father. The Bible says that for those who desire to be in leadership, they have to manage their own, like their role is for their household first. How can they manage the household of God if they can't even maintain their own household? Like that. So the scriptural standard is, nope, you are a family man first. So I'm a husband and a father first, and then everything else. Yes. And so to take that context and apply it to yours is now, okay, you're in this removed process, but you are still mom.
Yeah, I'm still connected.
And you have to keep that connection there. Yeah.
Because if I broke those connections, I would break myself in turn.
And so you had to do that really intentionally.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was everyday process. It was like, do I want to, I had to do every time my eyes open and I'd look over and not see my babies next to me. It was a daily, all day long thing. I'd sit down to eat and I'd go to cut my food and that shame starts creeping in, and I have to tell myself, no, I can't break.
Right.
I have purpose, and I all day long, like, I used to tell myself, break my heart, or what breaks yours. You know what I mean? Yeah. Over and over again, like, because I knew that it's not somewhere I was going to be forever.
Right.
But if I could go, because I had this opportunity, you know, to see things differently in there, and to see where maybe the break is, like, why are people coming back? Why? Because I didn't go in there angry. I went in there, my heart was hurt.
Right.
But I knew that that's not somewhere I was supposed to be forever. Yep. And so the thing is that, so I'm in there and I'm got this great setup with seeing my kids every week and being a part of their growth. But so there's these, when you call a department, they're like, sorry, that's not my department. Can you call this agency number instead? And then they cut it off. And it's like, they're not willing to open that knowledge door of like, well, here, let me look into this. Let me check out Google for you. There's it's just like cut and dry. Like, nope, that's not my door. Close it and go to the next one. Yeah. So because of the laws and because of like how everything's structured through the law, a lot of DOC departments have to be like that because they're only allotted to handle certain policies. Yeah. Because
so one doesn't talk to the other,
right,
kind of thing. So,
right. They're like, not my area.
Right. So then
branches on a tree.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not exactly. So like my number stays the same. My DOC number is still the same in every agency. Right. So here I am. My name is still the same. Yeah. From birth. Here I am. And so for me, it was like blending those, like finding the crack in the wall where I could like blend these departments, because I was in culture shock once I got into boot camp. I got accepted. So happy. It was like, yes, I'm going home. Like, so I'm smiling ear to ear, okay? Because I'm like, I'm going home soon. Yeah. Like, as long as
you got in this program.
I got in this program, and I'm going home 7.5 years.
7% of applicants.
Yes. Yeah. And I knew that there's nothing that would stand in my way, except for myself, my own mentality. And so I did not let that interfere. And it was a struggle every day, that's really where you have to deal with your like physical self and then your spiritual self and then your like what you're driven to do. Right. And
your addict self.
Yeah, and my addict self, and because like, let me tell you, there's drugs, you know what I mean? Like there's everything that it's just like being on the streets. It's a community.
Yeah. And when people have their connections, they have to get things in there. They get
and then in being able to go into the program, the boot camp program, you cannot be in any trouble. Mm-hmm. At least 30 days before you go in, or you lose your spot. So, and other people know that. So other people that are like letting their tail hang off, not connected, they're like, oh, we're going to test these people. Right. And so there was times when other individuals would try to test my strength of staying on the right path, because they want you to be where they're at. Sometimes. Right. And not intentionally, like they're not like, oh, I want these people to suffer, but their hurt self needs company.
I don't want you to go. I like you. I want you to stay here with me. Don't leave me.
And then there's like those diamond in the rough. Then there are those souls that have like settled with the fact that they're there, but they're not settled in their spirit. And they've like my dear friend, she's been there for 20 years and she's got 11 more to go, and she's an amazing individual, and she leads Bible study in the morning, and she wakes up every day smiling, and she's still goofy, and she owns her weird, and I love her. And she is fighting to get out and get back home, and she really, every day that I wake up and I think like, man, this is bad, I think of her. Yeah. And I'm like, she has been here for 20 years.
Wow.
And she wakes up smiling, and she accepts people that walk in the doors, and she has built boundaries, and she's amazing, and she's such an inspiration.
Well, and I think what's really amazing for something like that, where she's there for so many years, and she's where she is now. Again, I don't know who she is. I've never met her, but just that many years, your perspective changes.
Yes, I mean, and she went through it. Like,
yeah, she went through all these different perspectives, and now here she is now, 20 years later, leading Bible studies.
Found her worth,
blessing
found
others,
her place.
knows her identity.
Yes.
And I love how you put it there. Owns her weird.
Yes, owns her weird. Yes.
Own your weird. And then this idea that she's made it her ministry. She's made it her role that she's taken upon herself is, I'm going to love the woman beside me.
Yes.
And that's huge.
It's huge, because you got to think. I mean, she is just. Here's the thing: like, she sees people come in and out and back in and back out, and that heart wrenching. And that's like that's horrible. I'm sure that she probably. It's wearing.
I'm sure she grieves with the song that gets out, and she's gonna come right back in. Why are you back?
Yes, because they have that shot at life again, where she's just in there. And she sees other people get out, she prays for them, and she has hope for them, and she invests into their time while they're there, and and she really has taught me that if they don't want it, they don't want it. Yeah. And just you gotta stay on your path, and like I already knew that, but to see that in somebody else who literally, like I'm like, oh, cute, she's cleaning the kitchen area, and then I'm like, but this is her home. This has been her home for 20 years.
There's a great book I read a couple years ago that really helped me understand, because you want to help everybody and do everything, even the people who do but the book I read is called When to Walk Away. Yes. And it's because there is a moment when somebody does not want to respond to your help.
Yeah, they don't want to
and it's hard, because that's the difficult part, like when they really don't want your help, when you're beating your head against the brick wall, trying to get somebody to get it together. And all you're doing is actually just hurting yourself.
Yes, and enabling them.
That's the moment when you say, I have to release you from this. Yeah. And for my benefit, I'm going to let you go.
And for your well-being, you need to either stand or fall. And maybe this will be your rock bottom. Yeah. And if it's not your rock bottom, then you're going to keep falling. But you know what it's like to have that person standing next to you. So if you really desire to have that connection, then you're going to build yourself.
Yeah, we're not saying I'm cutting off completely. I don't want to be in here. It's when you are ready to fix things, I'm here. Come talk to me.
Yes.
So she was kind of like an inspiration and gave you some kind of strength. I'm assuming is what you're saying.
Very, very key.
Very key. And here's the thing about Jamie was she was abused. So she was in a relationship. She was abused. Okay, and she confided in her brother, and her brother took it into his, and they were all addicts at the time, and her brother took it into his own hands. So now she was already, it's like this trickle effect. So then, because she didn't confess that my brother did this, she got life. Right.
And so she's the one. This person with this 31 year that confessed the wrong person took it, the one that you talked about the last time.
Yes.
So this is her.
Yes.
So she went from this whole complete perspective switch.
Completely. I mean, she even got transferred out of the prison for 7 years because she was that deep in her pain and her agony and had no self-identity. She was a mess. And so when she finally found herself and found her worth and her place and her purpose and was content with the fact that I'm a child of God, I am loved, I have purpose, and whatever I'm here to do, I'm here. I mean, she did PFA, which is the prison ministry. She did, she's a peer mentor. She's a peer recovery specialist. She is there to help accept people and say, here's the God.
And I love it because she's doing it from behind the walls.
Yes. Yeah.
So what I think about when Victoria's talking about that is that the importance of others paving the way.
Yes.
Yeah. In recovery is the way I think, and how they can be inspiring and be a strength for you, but you have to actually kind of accept that.
Well, because
the intake from them, or I don't know how to say
that. Well, so
exactly.
the duality, because they're doing their part to be that encouragement, that mentor.
Well, they're just living recovery the way it's supposed to be.
but then
You
it
know?
is also on. I'm gonna say you.
Yeah,
To do your part in it, where
Right.
you have to receive the path that they've taken, like not the path that they've taken, but the road that they've blazed ahead. The like, this is who I am now. This is me trying to pour into you, and you have to be willing to be poured into. You have to like be open to receive what they're doing,
Right.
and so you have to receive what they're doing, but then at the same time, like, you've got to also follow through.
Yeah.
Right. See, and that's, I mean, okay, so there's like this, there's shit going
There's
through
the
my
time.
head.
There's the time.
Right. But so someone took the time to pour into Victoria, right? And so Victoria in turn has started to pour out to others, because once your cup is full, what good is it to hold on to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And that entail, I mean, that kind of encapsulates what recovery is
Community,
to me.
Yeah.
What it is
Fellowship.
it's those who give to you, and it's not like they're giving me like material things. I'm talking about experience.
Yeah.
Experience, spirituality. They give me information, and they turn things into action, and so when they do that, well, I in return, I'm like, oh, well, that's that works. So then I do it. Well, then the next person down gets that too, and then it kind of trickles. And so, I feel like that story that you just told was so important, because because I don't think that we can do this alone.
No.
I need others to for me to have strength.
Well, and I think you're touching on it too. We need others to have that strength.
Right.
But then the catalyst is there are people who need your strength.
Yes. So
Exactly.
So in that, to return to that, so now that I'm home, okay, because you got to understand how many people have probably left that prison saying, "Oh no, I'll be there for you," or "No, I'll be that." I will tell you that it doesn't matter where I am during the day. If I see that I'm getting a call from Jamie, I will answer it.
Well,
and I'm talking about, I was even in front of an officer one day. I'm like, "Hold on, please. I'm not going to be."
So you're saying if she calls during one of these, we're going to pause. We'll be right back. Here we go. This is an important call.
And here's the thing, and not even just stay on the whole conversation, just to say, "Jamie, I love you. I'm here for you. I haven't forgotten you. I'm just in the middle of something right now. Call me back."
Yeah.
Just so she knows and she feels that she was not
She's
checked out. She's
valued.
valued. And for my children call her Auntie Jamie now, even though, because she never got to have children.
Right.
She's been in there since she was 20 years old.
Yeah.
And so her family has been through all these connections she's made within there. And so I said, you know what? You have a family within my family. You will always be a part of it.
I love how you encourage your kids to call her auntie.
Yes, and they love her.
That is huge.
And so there's someone who I know that's in the program. One of the things that he says a lot is that the opposite of addiction is connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, so important to have connections, because we're I don't want to say I am weak at and when it comes to addiction, so I need that strength to come from somewhere. Obviously you have your own strengths, and I'm not saying like we
were made to walk along.
Right. Well, we were, and the connection is really kind of some of the difference, and that's what I think the community could be. I'm not saying that people in the community don't try to make those connections, but if we think bigger,
right,
and we try to get that connection. I know that there have been times when I've been ashamed to go to the club,
right,
because people are looking at you like, well, why would you do that? Because and I'm not saying anything bad about anybody, but I'm just saying, like, because it's a taboo to be an addict, especially like a meth addict or heroin addict, and we need to stop thinking of it as taboo and as a problem, and a problem that we can solve, and we can solve it by connection.
This question
That makes
came up.
Yeah.
There's a question that came up in our Sunday school class here at the church. We were reading through the Bible, and there's a passage in John, and it says, "Confess your sins one to another, and you will be healed." And the question that came up is, why does it say we have to confess our sins to each other? Shouldn't we just confess our sins to God? And that's a great question, right? Well, it is. That's what I told him. This is accountability. I was like, and because this is what we're talking about right here.
Transparency.
Is that transparency, but idea of I'm by confessing, by sharing our stories, by sharing our journey, by coming alongside one another, we make the box of what we're going to get into smaller. We can't get into the old habits because people are watching over us. That accountability comes into play.
Awareness.
And the awareness comes in, but it comes from being willing to share. Yeah. And that the Bible says confess your sins one to another. That means I'm gonna share my junk to somebody else. And but that's the idea is we're not supposed to be hidden. Right. If you don't know what I'm struggling through, how can you help me?
Right, but in the same sense though, you also have to be aware of the person you're confiding and expressing that to, because they may not be able to contain that knowledge without it hurting them in that aspect. So you really have to be conscious and mindful about that, because sometimes it is a lot of weight to bear.
Well, yeah, and that's where again, like with the Bible, where the Bible helps interpret the Bible, and so like if you have a question on one passage, you can look at another to give you greater clarity. And so there's one part like about talking about judgment. You worry about the speck of dust in your brother's eye, but not the plank in your own. Right. And so that verse helps us also understand confessing our sins. He says to remove the plank in your own eye, then you can see clearly to remove the speck of dust in your brother's eye. And so that now you see that strength of and I'm going to use this very, very loosely, but that strength of leadership, not in so much like I'm going to charge, but no, I'm ahead of you in this. I'm taking care of myself. I'm making myself healthy so that I can help you become healthy.
So there's a quote that used to be on the board when I go running every morning in the prison, and it would say, I'm going to do today what no one chose to do, so tomorrow I can do what no one else is capable of doing.
That's a good quote.
And I see it, and I'm like, that makes sense, and it's not that they're not capable, it's just, they're just not there yet.
Right.
And then when they choose to be there, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And that is the beauty of you getting that. You get to choose what you want to do every day and where you want to be.
So I want to.
Unless if you're in active addiction.
Yeah.
Because this, and
it does.
Because it does take that away.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say that, when you kind of confess that stuff, it's freeing. Right. Because you no longer have to hold on to that load. Right. And no matter what anybody else thinks about you, you start to think differently about yourself because you're like, okay, I let go of this, and and it lightens that load. But in terms of addiction, they have what's called the 4th and 5th step, right? And so in the 4th step, you take this little inventory, so it kind of lines up with what you're saying, and you put on there, well, I robbed this person, or I kicked this door in, whatever. And then in the 5th step, you sit down with God, and with another individual, and you kind of just puke it out, right? Yeah. And so it's kind of strange that it lines up in that way, because recovery, I really honestly, and I hate saying this because I think people, especially people in recovery, will look at me like, whatever. But I really believe that the 12 steps is meant to lead you to God. Yep. That is the goal through the whole thing, and in that process, you find recovery and how to live that way. Yep. But I think the goal, is, I don't know if you, obviously the 12th step is, is had a spiritual awakening, and, so obviously there's that.
Yeah. No, there's amazing part. I want to get back to your story because I know
yes,
this is good stuff. This is a great conversation. But there's a portion in the New Testament Paul is writing, and he's giving a list of terrible behaviors, even very gross sins, and he's telling the church. He's writing this to the church, and he uses this phrase. This is what's so beautiful. He talks about the sexually immoral. He talks about the idolaters. He talks about the drunkards. He talks about. He goes down this whole list, and he goes, and you were these things. He talks about the idea that those identity of those behaviors, the identity found in those behaviors. I'm an addict. I'm a this, and he's talking to the church. And he goes, you were these things. Telling the church, you're not of this anymore. And so the whole idea, like this whole idea of like that sharing and that confessing and being transparent, it is about transforming your life. And you do have the old identity. Like, this is who I am. This is my struggle. This is my battle. This is what I face when I wake up in the morning. But that's no longer my identity. I am now something new. And so
I think that's confusing to people who aren't in recovery, is that, because it's like, well, you're no longer this. Yeah, I know I'm not, but I need that maintenance to remain not being that person.
Yes.
And so, so it's, sometimes I think it's confusing for people when they're like, well, you're still going to meetings. Why? You've been sober for 6 years. What do you need those for?
And that's
you still talk to a sponsor. You're still reading these books. Well, because if I don't, me and you won't have a relationship because I'm off and running again.
Yep.
So it's important to, but that's part of who, for me, I think that addict that you say that I'm not, I am.
Right. Well,
it's
that's
still there.
Yes. Well,
that little demon hangs out on my shoulder every day.
And the Bible interprets the Bible, because Paul also says, "I die daily." Like
that's a good enough.
Yeah. He said, "I die daily." All this stuff. He goes, "My body always wages." The old, he goes, the old me is still waging with the new me, and he goes, the only way he can put it, he says, I have to die daily, meaning every morning you wake up and you got to choose. You've got to choose. Am I good? And so, like, I tell people about my wife. I wake up every morning and I choose to be married to her that day. Yes. I make that a conscious choice. Like, I choose to be a father today. I choose to be a husband today. I choose. That means anything that I want to do for myself becomes secondary to meeting those other things. And so that might be a great segue for you right now. So here you are in this place. You're going through all this, and you're learning, and you're making these choices. Like, I'm choosing to be this new person.
Yes. Yes.
So,
while in the midst of it.
In the middle of it.
Yeah. And so then I get accepted. So I'm like,
boot camp. Here we go.
Yep. So I'm like filling the group, because I'm like, yes, I can be connected with my kids. I can, so you know what I mean? Like, I was like, this is great, and I'm feeling the benefits of, like, just being that ambitious and being that driven and knowing my place and knowing my worth and knowing my kids' value. And then culture shock happens again. Mm-hmm. Okay. So when you get accepted into boot camp, you go in and you do not call home. You cannot have no contact with the outside world for almost a month.
Ooh.
Okay, so also I was unaware that once I crossed that threshold, the invisible barrier line, the other department, that I no longer would have those Zoom visits with my children. Because that was set up through the other side of the wall. It was all in the same. So here I am, the week of going to commit, and I'm like into boot camp now, where it's like I came up, and with the help of others around me and with their willingness, was able to come up with this structured plan where I could still be so involved and still, be a part. And then it was like cold turkey, like went in, no contact, no phone calls, no nothing. I mean, I call home every Sunday and listen to my church service. Yeah. From in General Pop, I'd have visits with my kid through the Zoom. I'd be a part of everything. And then I go into boot camp, and it was like culture shock. No kids, no calls, no nothing.
Well, and it's funny because talk about that, because my brother my brother was military. He was boot camp, and he had to do 10 weeks of intense living.
One first call, right?
One first call. That's it.
That's it.
And then they're shut up. And it's so funny because he told me the story afterwards. And if he ever watches this, and if I tell it wrong, buddy, send me a text and correct me. But he told me the story one time how they were in the middle of boot camp. And it was like they were in the middle, like it's the middle of 10 weeks. So 1 month in, 2 months in on this program, and the drill sergeant comes in and says, "Guys, got great news for you. Angelina Jolie is back on the market. Brad Pitt died." That's the way that he hit, and they have no news.
Yeah, nothing.
They have nothing. So all they have to do is go on just the words from their drill sergeant.
Yeah, you're relying on them to inform you about the world.
And so it's kind of the same mentality. You are cut off, and you can't have any access to anything. It's only through this one person.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead. Sorry.
And so GP, you get TVs if you want them. You get access to the world, the newspaper. Boot camp, you don't get TVs, you don't get, other than education.
Yeah.
Educational things through education department and boot camp, or through your like counselor, drug counselors. You do not have access to the news. You don't have none of that.
Wow.
So you rely on the word of your sergeants, then your officers, then the people, these adults that are put in your life there. That's yes or no, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And that is, but so here you are, and your mind is like, what are my kids doing? What is my family doing? What's going on? Is everything okay? Like, I can't believe I'm like, you just start that shame starts sinking in again. And it's
Right.
like, no, I'm doing what I need to do. But as forward and as set and as grounded as my feet were in my purpose and my value as a mother, it was that trauma of just being separated all over again. So it's just a repeat thing.
Yeah, so you went to prison and it separated you, but you found a way.
And then I found a way to reconnect.
And then all of a sudden,
I go to boot camp.
In prison, you also got separated again.
Okay, yeah.
So I get okay.
Yeah, so it's like so here I am, like finding the groove that's better and a possible way to make things better, and then cut off again. So it's like these tests just kept coming where it was like, okay, I got this, I can do this, So I mean, it was like.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but so at what point when this happened, where did you start to think I need to start changing some of these, or at least have to move to a point where they'll look at how to change this?
So the first weekend I'm like, okay, look, I know I'm new here. I know that that I'm here, and I know this is a punishment, but like I need to understand why I can't continue doing these. What doesn't make sense that you guys would want to not formulate something that's better for kids and parents?
Right. So they completely isolate you from everything.
And they're like, this is policy. This is, and I'm like, but the policy, I said, the program I was in prior, the DOC invested all this into my children for the healthy start of the children's first year. But I was that odd statistic, remember? I was the one that wasn't supposed to be, and I was the one that was never expected to succeed. I was the, and not from their word of mouth, but just idealized in this lawmaking.
Right.
It was never even a possibility.
Right.
And so yet I pushed through, and I pushed through, and I pushed through, and then here I am, and I'm like, how does this not make sense? They're like, but you're in CIP now. You're not in Healthy Start now. So I went from one program, graduated that program, to go turn myself into prison, even though I graduated. So now I'm accepted and blessed to be in this other program.
Right.
And I just keep seeing as opportunities, like, yeah, I'm one step closer home. I'm one step closer home. But in the meantime, while I'm one step closer home, I'm like, why am I feeling so broken? Why can't we make changes? Right. So I'm like that annoying little mosquito that was like buzzing, that like everyone's standing in line, boots shine, buckled shine, creased in your uniform, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. And I'm like, but there's more, but wait. And so I'm like writing all these kites, and I'm writing. And so I went from having like all these people that were pertinent and like had a hands-on involvement in my children's life and my life, to like, you're in boot camp, and that's that invisible wall. So it's different. Everyone's the same. Everyone has a number. Everyone has a, and they're like, we don't talk to you. The case manager, like, you have to put a kite in to talk to me, but her door is 2 doors down from my dorm. Mm-hmm. And she passes, and it's like, you don't speak unless, permission to speak, sir, permission to speak, ma'am, permission to, and then if it comes down to anything that has to do with like your personal, it doesn't go to the sergeants or the officers. It goes to your case manager. Yeah. So if that case manager is not invested, right, then what do you do? And so here it is. She's like, well, what do you mean? Like, I can't, I'd be letting you be individualized.
So I'm assuming there's an idea and purpose behind that. Why they?
So it's to break you down. It's to break you down to nothing and to build you back up. Yeah. Like, and I get that, but in the process, that break isn't just breaking you; it's breaking your children.
Right.
It's breaking those ties that you have out there.
And it's set to. It doesn't individualize.
No.
Because some people come in there at a different level.
Yes, and some people have disabled children. Some people have infant children. Some people have children come in there and they can cognitively hear you say, I can't talk to you for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but I will speak to you again soon, and I am okay. Then you have the ones that are like infants or disabled, and they don't know. Yeah, cognitively, they can't grasp that because they're not there yet. Right. So they went from seeing you again every day of their life to I'm gone, to all of a sudden I'm seeing them every week, to then I'm gone, and can't even call and hear my voice. Yeah. And so what I did before I left was I made YouTube videos and I made things like that for my kids to see. In a spare moments where I couldn't contact them.
Oh, that's brilliant.
But it's like it was like all this work going into like what if, and so it's like, why can't we already have these what ifs somehow put in place?
Right.
You know, and that's really what I was focused on every day. I was like writing the new director, I was writing the case manager, and I'm writing all these kites and just being that annoying bug in their ear, and they're like, we can't treat you individualized. I'm like, I hear you. Like, I'm not asking for special treatment. Why can't we just do it a treatment for all?
Right.
Like, why can't we make something? I said, in this program, there's nothing for parenting. There's nothing. So there's women are getting put in this program to get early released to just focus on your career, focus on your, these are great things. I mean, they have great education in there.
Right.
They have great career setup in there. They have all this stuff, except for that rebuilding those connections. Yeah. So you break that bond, and then a lot of these people, these women, don't have that connection because they've been gone for so long. Yeah. Or they didn't have that ability. So here I am, like, crying about how I can't see my kids every, week, or how, and they're like, but you got that year with them. But I said, no, I'm grateful for that. But why should they have to continue being separated?
Right.
Why can't we build this?
Right.
And so, like, I'm in there, and then, I put in this big proposal about, I've spoken with all the women. There's 42 women at the time in there, and I'm like, I've really listened to them, and these are things that not only I feel that I need, and I know that I need, but these are things that these women feel they need, and they won't bring it up.
Right.
Because you should already be grateful that you're in this early release. You should already, and it is a great program, and it is a blessing to have in there. It's an amazing opportunity, but there's always room for change and growth.
Right. Where can we make the improvement?
Right.
Really do this.
And this and here's the list. And here it's not just like an opinion. These are facts. These are given by other women. This is not only a burning desire, but a desire to sustain stability once we leave here.
And you can still and again, I'm not in the policy. I'm not part of that. Their process of the sergeants and the leadership and the program directors, but there's got to be a way that I do see the military implications, like because it is a military based program.
Yes.
But at the same time, like there can be an adjustment. Does it have to be the same as the general population?
No,
but can there be a format
that
meets
a
both?
model that can just integrate?
Yeah. The truth of the matter is that somebody who goes to prison obviously was doing something that wasn't, and then you want to put them back in the community, and you want to do it in a way where you've already isolated them off. That doesn't make sense to me very much. And exactly. Not only that, I feel like they would be punishing the kids for what the mother did. Not that.
No, I didn't take that.
Okay, and so why wouldn't you want to make some of those changes? Because I believe that probably 99% of the people who are in prison is because of addiction, some way, shape, or form. Whether that's true, like those the statistics, I don't know, but for mothers, I think that's even more true. Because a lot of women, that's otherwise women are pretty strict. Like they're not trying to get into trouble. Like guys are kind of whatever. But so do they focus on any kind of addiction in CIP for you?
It's just general addiction.
They don't.
So
do you take a class?
Yeah, he takes Compass Substance Abuse IOP. So you do 6 months of treatment in there. And I wasn't actually set to be in the treatment, so I would have been like.
You were technically kind of.
I pleaded for them to let me in.
You don't need to be. They were going to put you in there.
Because I was already a peer recovery specialist before I went in.
So you're just like, I need to be in here.
I'm like, I need to do something with it. I want to invest. I want more tools. I want to keep doing maintenance. I need it. Yeah. Otherwise I'll be scrubbing boots and walls all day. And I did that for 2.5 weeks, waiting to be allowed in to join the rest of the group. Yeah. And for me, it was like, okay, so maybe I need this time. So I had to really refocus and be like, look, I know I can't, I'm still trying to make the path to like reopen these connections with my children and my family. Because then once you get to start calling them, you only get one phone call, 2 15-minute phone calls on the weekend, once a week. Okay.
Oh, snap.
Okay. So then you're only calling on the weekend.
Right.
For weeks until you go to your next hat. It's red hat, brown hat, blue hat, go home. And so you are in these levels of hats, and you don't get increased phone time until then. And you don't. So
stupid question.
Yeah.
You said red hat, green hat. Do they literally give you like a different?
Yeah, so like I have all the hats at my house. So
That,
you,
I didn't think about that. Like,
so you march around in your khakis.
So you can actually, so you got the khakis, you got the different colored caps, and so you can actually tell in
Which-
your program
which squad is
how
which.
close are you to getting
Yes.
home.
And so even in the formation line, so every morning we go out and we do flag after we so we're standing in the line, and so it's senior squad, junior senior squad, baby squad, and
Senior squad's the ones that are ready to go home after that.
yes. And so when we do flag formation, the senior squad stands separate off the parade deck into the side. So and then when I first got there, I'm like, why do they do this? Why do they do this? And I figured it out though. It's because then all these squads underneath you, they see you. So they're not only watching the flag, but they're watching their senior squad.
Yeah.
Stand there, and that's and you stand at attention.
You're different. Yeah.
Yeah, you stand at attention, and they're like, I'm gonna be there one day. And so every time the senior squad graduates, the next squad moves to that position. Yeah. And so your lines always change as you
get a visual representation.
Yes, which is great. It's super great. So it's like if they can formulate that into that, if they can cognitively put that into play where it's like, this is good, why can't we do other things?
Right.
And so there I am. I begged to be in treatment. They entered me into remission, and I'm like, well, I'm still I'm an active addict, like not active in my addiction, but active in my recovery.
Right.
And so like technically I'm not remission because that's something, it doesn't go away. I mean, you're not in
Remission.
Yeah, but that's what they had me under because I wasn't in immediate need of that because I'd already cared for that. But I'm like, there's never just like a good hairstylist. So like I used to do hair. A good hairstylist is always willing to learn.
Right.
They're not like, nope, this is how you do it. This is, otherwise they end up with the same boring haircut every day for the next.
Well, the idea of just continuing and maintaining that ability.
It's growth.
Right. You want to keep doing these things so you don't lose that talent. Yes. It's like people are surprised when they hear that I took a couple years of guitar lessons, but to this day I can't play the guitar. And the reason, see, you're laughing. Well, and it's because I stopped.
A couple years,
and I stopped practicing.
I'm disappointed.
Right?
Stop investing into what
I stopped pushing into it.
Yeah.
Right. I stopped putting into it because I know like 3 or 4 chords, absolutely. But I lost the callus on my fingers. Yeah. I can't strum with a beat. Your
memory, your reflex memory is...
The reflex memory's not there. Now I can sit down and pull out 3 or 4 chords. Mm-hmm. I know I can pick it up, but I have to work extra hard just to pick it back up. But I can't, the guitar players on Sunday mornings, I'm nowhere near that, and it's because I did not practice. Right. I did not continue in that skill.
Into it.
You have to invest into it. And so kind of a silly example, but at least community you catch that. So you do. You're wanting to get. You want to.
Yes, I want to maintain. I want to keep stretching that muscle. I want to keep building it. I want to keep making it stronger. And so my counselor, she openly admitted me. She's like, I didn't know how this would go.
Yeah.
Because people come in there, either they're hungry for that knowledge or they're just like, okay, just accepting it and moving forward. Where she was like, I didn't know how you would accept it because you were already so many years of recovery under your belt when you came in here. You're the unique case, that ugly word. I hate that word because we're all unique,
Yeah.
But yes, own your weird, own your stripes, own your spots. I own mine. And so here I am, and you do IOP, which is it's outpatient, but you're still in the facility, so you don't actually leave. It's right there, built into your building. So we have education on one side, we have SUD on the other side, which is outpatient, and then we have our recovery groups and stuff like that. And those are all optional, the recovery meetings and stuff, and those are in the evenings. So like we go through our full day, wake up at 5 a.m., you're on the pavement, and you do your day. So you do your workout, you do your military drills, you do your bedding, you do everything, all day, every day.
Yep.
Sundays are the only day that you get that leisure time a little bit. And that's earned though.
Emphasis on a little bit.
Emphasis. So you get after breakfast, you come back and you can choose to do church, and then you get that until the evening, which, but you're in line for your nutrition snack, at 7:45, and then you change out and you're in bed by 9. 9:02, you're in the bed, lights off, nothing, you can't talk, you can't do nothing. It's routine. It's, you don't do that.
Military kid.
Yes.
My brother was in boot camp, my dad, yeah.
So your forward thinking on this, that was was distracted almost kind of by the CIP because they try to restrict you. So did you try to make changes within that,
Yes.
or was
So I continued. So normally, like I said, you don't speak to like the sergeants and the officers about said things because that's not, you know what I mean. But they're there, like they're invested. Sergeant Comer was our head sergeant, and amazing man. He's been there, I think, like 20 years, or maybe 30. I think 20 though. Into the CIP itself.
So he has a life sentence.
Yes, and willingly and choosing to be there. It has a lot of wear and tear emotionally on him as well. But he's a God loving God. You know, he's a man of God.
They invest.
You know, and then
you become their kids.
Yes. I'm like, you guys are strong. You got like all these women are like your children. You know, like you guys need some like honor strength. You know, and then you have like Officer Johnson, who used to be sergeant. They rotated throughout the prison. You know, but their investment is the DOC. And so then, like I said, you have those people that come to work and invest and like change lives, and you have people that just come for paycheck. You know, those two men, they are honorable, and they really invested, and they have to have boundaries though for them for their own maintenance and well being. Because again, people come in and they come out, just like Jamie. People come in and come out, and that's heartbreaking for them to see them come in and come out. And so I went to the sergeant one day and I'm like, permission to speak, sir. And he's like, yes, Lopez. Permission. And he's like, and I was like, permission to carry on a short conversation, sir. And he's kind of looking at me and he's like, what?
That little bug.
And I'm like, you know, he's like, stand at attention, you know, because I like to talk with my hands. And I said, I would like your advice on something. I would like to know, how do I move forward with proper procedure about making a proposal about parenting program or building that connection within these walls, because I'm not getting anywhere in the CIP program.
Right.
And my heart hurts, and I'm not the only heart that's hurting, and I'm not the only mother longing for that connection. You know, and I explained it to him. I'm like, it's not that we're like, oh, we want to have all this free time, we want to get all these extra calls. No, we want to build that relationship with our children. Right. Whether it may be even starting a like therapy counseling session once a month for these moms with older kids, or continuing like the Zoom sessions for people with younger kids or with disabilities, you know. And so like he heard me, and he said, and at first he cracked a joke, because they have to be, you know, they have to have that sense of humor for their own safety guard, you know. And so the joke with me was, oh, we know why you're here, that, you know, you got pushed through by the commissioner. And I had to cut him off, and I said, no, I earned my way here. I earned my way here because I stayed faithful to my path, and I stayed faithful to the decision that I wanted a better life, and I knew what that better life tasted like and looked like, and I know what I'm going home to. So don't discredit me for that. Yeah. And it was just very like, good for you, you know. Yeah. And he was like, okay, I hear you. Because then it wasn't just like I'm not just here being needy and I feel like I'm entitled. I'm not here for privilege. No, I'm not here for privilege. I worked my butt off to get here, and I will continue working it off whether I have your support or not. He got to hear. Yes. He got to hear your motivation. Yes. You know, and not only that, but they got to see it. And for them, there's not a lot. I mean, they interact more on a risky level for them because all of us that they interact with, that's a chance of, you know, that building that connection, appropriate connection, but scary connection, because some women leave and die because they relapse. Or they end up back there for life sentences. And then it's like they put that investment into someone, and then it's like, oh, you know? Well, it's hard. Yes. It is. Well, and, you know, like as a pastor, as somebody who deals with spiritual lives and people, and I'm going to call it, in my head, I want to call it trauma response. Yeah, where somebody has an emergency, they call me, and so there's a lot of times where, like, this, I don't want to sound calloused. I've got to be as sensitive as this flower, but as tough as a rhinoceros. You have to. And that's the hard part, because it's like I'm sensitive. I'm there for you. I feel for you. Yes. But understand, I have my limits of what I can and cannot do, and I have to be tough, loving for you. But understand, just because I'm being harsh on you, doesn't mean I love you less. Right. So like Sergeant Comro is the one who, my first weekend, I'm standing in cadence order, standing in line, and I'm smiling. That's why I was smiling, you know? Even though I'm crying, I'm smiling, you know? And he's like, why you got that grin on your face there? Yeah, so the joke is, for 2 weeks, though, so this was the second weekend, for 2 weeks, he wasn't there. And I was like, they're doing this on purpose, because everyone's like, Big Daddy Comro's coming, Big Daddy's Comro's coming, you know, and that's what the joke they called him, because it's a super I mean, his stance is firm, you know,
Yeah.
like he's there, he's prominent, he is, and you can tell, and it's not because he's forceful, it's because he has purpose.
Yeah.
You know, and he has the ability to affect people.
He carries
yes,
himself with that
yes,
authority.
you know. However, so I'm standing there and I'm like, well, I'm not doing that wrong. I'm standing in line, I'm smiling, and I don't even realize I'm smiling. And he's like, you right there. Why are you smiling? And I'm like, me? And I smile again, you know. And he's like, you can begin. And I'm like, and so immediately he's like, and you know, and after watching his interaction and after being interacted with him throughout day to day, all day, 20, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Their days are long there. They spend more time there than they do at home, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, if you love your children, would you be here? You know? And I was like, sir, I do love my children as I'm doing push-ups, you know? And it's like, but it still breaks you because it's like, they don't know you. They just know they get a list of names that come in, and so if they get to know you, it's because they took that time and that chance to invest in you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's whether you receive it or not. Again, with the receiving thing, people can give to you or invest in you, support you. And so at first, I was like, it was a trauma response though, because here's this oversized man, you know, and he wasn't like being like abusive or aggressive. It was just he was being cut cold, dry, blunt because it was a general baseline. Everyone's there. Everyone's there in trouble.
They gotta know who's in charge.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and so I kept smiling though, you know, I kept smiling, but I was crying while I was smiling, you know, and so he's like, but I will tell you that after I had that conversation with him, where I said, I need your advice.
Yeah.
I need your advice, and it was sincere, and it wasn't like, well, I deserve this, and I and this, and you know, it was like, hear me out, please.
Mm-hmm.
Hear my cry, you know, hear not just mine but others. And so he was like, I tell you what, you write up the proposal. You can put on there that you spoke with me about this and I gave you the advice to go with the director. So like,
wow,
it's there, you know, it's just, people have to stand
right.
and be willing to hold that stance.
Yeah.
And make sense with it. You know, you really have to, you can't be forceful. I mean, you have to be forceful, but not in an aggressive manner.
Well, and I think, and the word I like is arrogant.
Yeah.
Like you went in there, you knew the direction you had to go in to get what you wanted. You had a goal. Yeah. Your goal was, I'm going to be clean and with my babies.
Yes. And I didn't have a time thing because I was given 88 months.
Right.
So I didn't know if that was happening in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. I just knew it was going to happen.
And so that's your goal. And so you went in there and you weren't, what I think is what I really appreciate too in this too, and is really beneficial, because a lot of people, they would go into an arrogant attitude.
Oh yeah.
But you were trying to do things right. And I think just in that sense, like you realize in the process of doing things right, you really do understand who has the power and who doesn't. And even in that place, you realized you were powerless.
Yeah.
Like you had no.
You're thrown in pot.
And so a lot of times, some people, when they don't realize they're powerless, they walk in with arrogance. But I think a lot of times when you realize that you have no authority and you have no power in there, it kind of softens your tone.
Yeah.
And so you were able to approach the man who did have the power in a way that you were able to convey that he had the power. Like he had the authority, and that's.
He had respect.
And that respect is, I'm working with my teenager about that. It's like, kid, you're the teenager. You're not the adult.
Well, and there's difference though between fear and respect.
Yes.
You know, I mean, there's the positive kind of fear where it's like you're not like trembling, but it's like you fear the loss of that respect.
Right.
You know, like I respect you as an individual, and I honor that.
Right.
You know, and so my actions are to uphold that respect in that relationship.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, yeah, Big Daddy Carmel's so scary, but that's only for people that are not acting as they should.
Yeah. Well, it comes down to like who's gonna be the one that is recognizing who's gonna get hit with a hammer if things go sideways.
Right.
You know, I had a pastor come in one time. We were talking about accountability and authority, and if something happened at the church and it was something we were wrong, he points outside the wall and he goes, whose name is on the church sign out there? Yours? He goes, right. So if something goes sideways in here, who are they going to talk to? Who are they going to come after? You. And he goes, exactly. Don't make my job hard.
Like, you know?
So
yeah, and that's what it is.
So I guess the way that I kind of see this is that there was an acceptance, you know, because as an addict, you really have to accept that you're an addict. You know what I mean? And so your process has to be start from that idea.
You have to go all the way
And
down
then you-
first.
Right, and then your whole, each day. And so for Victoria, what I'm hearing is that not only did she understand that she was an addict, but she also understood that she was more than just an addict.
Yeah.
And so she started to move in a direction that that
Was mindful.
right,
Yeah.
and
Very intentional.
And when you accept, everybody else around you, it's not as hard to have those communications, and it's not as, because you're not rigid and you're not, you're just kind of accepting your life as the way as it is.
It's not a competition.
Right.
It's like, let's all sit on this bike.
Right.
But I like what you said. More than an addict.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Because, well, that could be a long conversation. We could probably come back to that. But so for me, my question for you, Victoria, is so the motivation was there because they kept kind of boxing you in even more and more, and finally got you to a point where it was just like isolated in a way. So your motivation, I can understand that. So what was it that what are the laws, or what are the things that you actually made progress on and were able to make some changes?
So Dr. Rebecca Schlafer works for the University of Minnesota. So.
And by that I don't mean like you personally.
Right. No. Right.
But
no.
you know
Right.
what I
Which
mean, but
had a helping hand.
it was an
Our
accumulation.
experience, our testimony, like what it.
Right.
Catalyst for it.
Yes, you know. And so I was in the middle of like still just like torn because I didn't have that connection with my children right there. Like I was broken inside, but I was motivated still, and I knew I needed to get home. And so here comes this. They want to do like a review for that Healthy Start program, you know, because it was still a pilot program when I was in it. And so the goal was that I would help push it forward, but then it never got to that point, so I still had to come to prison, you know. So here is Iggy. They work together. So Iggy and Dr. Schlafer, they are amazing pediatric doctors. They work at the university, and they were brought on to head this review and to like model and see where in this program it can get pushed forward, because they're seeing that changes do need to be made.
Right.
You know,
so it's nice that you have some people who actually are seeing.
Yes.
You know, so they weren't closed-minded.
No, they're not.
Right.
And so they're brought in from the outside, and they didn't have no previous contact with me.
Right.
They just all of a sudden was like, oh, here. So they only had 2 review papers written up. The women that couldn't get accepted in the program.
And yours.
And then the women that had short-term sentences.
Oh, short-term. Okay, that's right.
Because it's a year and under, remember?
Yep.
So either you didn't fit in that category or you did. And then you have me, the long-term sentence, and who shouldn't have been allowed in, and still completed, and still had to come to prison.
Right.
So as far as case studies goes,
I wasn't in there.
You were in there,
but
you're a key metric.
Yes. And so she's like, I'm sorry about the top of the review page. You weren't formulated even into these reviews when they first thought of this.
Wow.
Right.
And I said, well, here I am. Again, here I am. You know, let's do it. And she sat down with me, and she listened, and she heard me, and she made that connection during that interview, and was like, tell me how you feel. Tell me what happened. Tell me what your experience was, and tell me what you're feeling now. And so just by hearing that, she was able to see a whole different light inside of things, where here I am with a 7.5-year sentence. Here I am with these babies. Here I am, got to be in my community. Here I am in the prison. Here I am. So all these different places I've been dropped into, you know, population, community, you know, general population, CIP.
Right.
You know, and so she's like, what's, and she heard where the break was, and she's like, I would love to speak with you more. I would, you know, because I wasn't like, oh, my life, my this, and I'm like, this is what I don't understand. Why we can't talk to this person? Why can't these two talk to each other? Why is there this invisible wall that's not invisible? Like, it's not there. It's not really there. It's just an invisible wall that they say is there, but I don't see it.
Right.
You know, so why can't we just cross over it? And so she was like, you have a good point here. So she was able to, with the experience and with the follow through that I did, put up a proposal and say, why can't we do this? Why can't we? So in that Healthy Start program, it was very cut and dry and rigid. And so they've been able to amend 4 of those, where they are opening that door now to like longer term sentences. And
Wow.
they're opening that door to other options and areas of even like that family connection when it's gone. Because once you hit that year, then you're like, oh, the program's over, it's done, blah, blah, blah. You still need those continuing resources, not even financially, just in general. Like you get a doula that works with those STAR program, you know, which that's a great one-on-one contact, just that grounding point for the mom. And then you get, you know, all these different things. And so we're able to open those doors more. And they have that third statistic that was like, nope, you can't shame these people because here it is.
Right.
You can't say that no more because here is that.
It's a success.
It's a success and not a failing one even through the so here I went in, so I cut off
your
30.
Success and long term success with that.
Right, and a continuous success even while being put and it's an eye opener because I have been able to I've been getting passed through these invisible walls. Through all these different levels of phases of DOC.
Oh wow.
Okay? And so I'm the one jumping through the walls because I'm getting moved through them in the different programs I've been in. And so here I am bringing all these people with me. Like, nope, this is my person, this is my person, this is my person. And you guys are going to meet.
Even when you don't know you're bringing someone through, because you're paving a way, somebody down the road that you'll never ever meet will benefit from that.
So right before this review, I went to my drug counselor, my ma'am, and I was like, I'm super nervous. I'm super grateful, but I'm super nervous because here is someone's coming to hear my testimony, you know, and they want to know my experience, and it's all about this program, and I can show them, you know, I can express to them like how grateful my heart is, but I also am scared because I hurt, and I don't want it coming across wrong, you know. And she's like, Victoria, you speak really well when you express your emotions, you speak, you know, and I have all the confidence in you. She's like, but here's the thing, you can't let it be about the world, it has to be about you. And I said, I'm not saying I'm doing this for the world, I'm saying I'm doing this for myself, and in turn I hope to help other people in the world. That's the difference.
Right.
I'm not just doing this for myself.
Right.
I'm doing it, so I can be whole, and so my family can be reunited, my community can have me back in there, I can keep investing. But yes, it is not just about me.
You're blazing a trail for your family, for your children, and then other women
and even males, because that connection is there. It needs to be there. You know, I mean, look at I was the head. Yes, because I was the head of household, and there I go, bye bye. Well, the kids weren't the only one left behind.
Right.
Spouse was left behind, you know, my even the children of the church who I grew that connection with, that their families weren't in the addiction lifestyle. They were clean and serene and sober, and they met me on my journey on my way into prison.
Oh yeah.
And they became bonded with me. So here are these children that were not of blood to me.
Right.
And they're yearning, and so these children are sending me a mail.
You're also anti-Victoria.
Yes, exactly. And so they're sending me a weekly mail to the prison with drawing pictures of me and my babies at church. You know, and Valentine pictures and pictures with the cross with you know, First Peter verses and all these things saying you have purpose, you are loved, you are missed. And these are children of the church whose parents are not addicts, whose parents are not incarcerated, parents, and I'm connected to them, and they're yearning for me to come back home. Wow. Because we have that connection.
So I really like that point. Yeah. The community was involved. You know what I mean? And just
at that place.
Right. So no, they were involved in Victoria's life. And if you think about what we're trying to do here, because they were involved, and I'm, you know, obviously it was her own strength and her own, you know, her own choices, but because of that, there was a success that occurred. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You know, and one thing I wanted to say was, so you know, she was plucked out of CIP and put home. So they completely isolated her, and then they put her home. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So I'm glad that you're working on some of that stuff to get some change involved in that.
Yeah. So not only that though, so then we did that. Okay.
I know we're running.
Yeah.
Well, it's more. You see us looking. We're looking. There's a clock right up here, and we're like, she's got places that she's got to be. So we want to keep going in this, but at the same time, like, okay.
Yeah, we're all being aware. We're being mindful and aware that.
But anyway, go ahead real quick.
So the thing is that so there I was, comfortable then not comfortable, then not comfortable, like finding the way, getting the groove, and then strip from it, and then put in another department. Okay, so now I'm in boot camp. I'm about to graduate boot camp. I was making waves with this doctor, like just sharing my testimony, and her colleagues were able to take that, along with other women who weren't able to get in the program, and other women that were in the program but didn't succeed, and they were able to take these and build this idea of what could change and what could be better. Okay.
Right.
So now I'm graduating boot camp. Okay. I'm like, yes, I'm going home. So prior to me going to prison, I had a wonderful parole officer named Caitlin. And she really like had the way with me in learning about that program I was in. So she was like full support. The whole DOC was in Albert Lea. Like they really were a part of their community.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I am getting out and totally not even thinking that I'm not going to have her now because I'm in a different program.
Right.
I'm still DOC, but now I get out and I have 5 agents, and I'm on ISR, and I'm and so it's so here I am now again. Remember the restricted, like separated, isolated because of these policies.
Right.
So now I get out and I'm on a whole different thing. So before it was like parole, and then it was prison, and then it was boot camp, and and now I'm out and in the community, and now I'm on ISR. So intense release program. So CIP release, and which is boot camp release, and I have these agents, and now it's email, voicemail, and for me, I'm like I was like full-fledged contact with people. I could call people like, this is what I need. This is what we can do. Like, can we do this? This is possible. It's not just me. It's my kids. And I get out and it's like, hello.
A little bit more independent.
Not independent though. Yeah. It was like isolated, but not an intention from them. It was the policy. It's the rule. It's the law. It's what is in the order. Like, this is what you do. You get out. You do this. So I'm like, this is unhealthy. I can't do this. Right. I'm like, it's not that I can't. Like, I will abide by laws and rules. But I'm telling you, this is very unhealthy. And I don't know how. I see why people go back to prison. Right. Because it's
a different kind of isolation.
Yes.
Because you're not. Whereas before you were isolated from your community, isolated from your family, isolated, which is intentional. It is good.
Right. Yeah, it is.
But now you get the support from these programs, and now the isolation on the other side is I'm with my family, I'm with my community, I'm with here.
But I have all these invitations.
I still need that infrastructure that the program gave me earlier. I still need.
Right. I need the ability to reach. Right. I need that ability to be like, hey, this is where I'm at today, and I need that communication back, not just like a.
Well, so here's the fun part is like how much more. Telling the idea of the community and the community for the addict is so much more, for me, from my perspective, is so much more complex and integrated.
Yes.
Than simple relational proximity.
Right.
The community is, in one sense, it's whatever the addict needs, as far as the relationships that the addict needs. The relationship with other people in recovery, relationship with their family, relationship with friends who are going to hold them accountable, relationship with the support network, relationship with the program directors and the service work, all that stuff. And so it really is. It's like you need a massive network.
But in that same sense, you can't limit that because these things are all meant for growth.
Yeah, hence the word. Yeah, why?
I mean, you need to be aware. You need accountability, but you can't limit that. And so that's what I faced. So like my first day home, I'm like crying at the end of my driveway because I felt like I couldn't go do the things that in my heart I valued anymore, like go be with my father right away. Because there was that break where they're like, "What's going on, Victoria?" And I'm like, "Here's the deal. Like I can communicate just fine, and these are things that I need, and I need you to hear me, please." Yeah. And so they have been hearing me, because and I'm like, and they're like, "You're not the first person to express said things, but you're the only one that's like pushing the button over and over again, And so now, like even being a peer recovery specialist, so like I was that before I went into prison, and so I was already certified. So that was me. And so now, now that I'm home, that normally wouldn't have been something that was in the playing cards right away because we get out. I'm ISR, this and that. But I was already in this lifestyle. I was, and I didn't falter. Like I didn't back down. I just kept pushing forward. So advocating and standing up but doing it mindfully and not forcefully really does. It's just opening and letting them see the view. And the thing is in order to change policy, in order to change law, in order to change direction and build those building blocks, you really can't do it. You need someone else to see it and lift that block with you. But you have to do it and you have to think everything. So like me, all those doctors that I had in my back corner, all the early education, early intervention, all these people that I've been carrying along with me, I'm like, here's the deal. This is what I need for them to legally be able to start opening these doors. Right. Because their hands are tied. Right. Because policy can only be changed with evidence. Yep. And so that's what I've been doing is just trying to build that more family-based, more like I need kid time, park time, playtime, rec time, recovery time. I need my recovery.
Yeah.
And I need this to stay stable and safe and sober and healthy and thriving and progressing.
Yeah.
And so now it's just every day, like knowing that everything I do is for that. So like Teen Challenge just gave me a job offer to be outwardly in Austin's peer recovery specialist or peer coach. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome.
I start the 29th of August. And it's, you know, and so outwardly in Austin doesn't really have, I mean, we have a great club. We have a great, but for women, especially, there's not a lot here.
No, there
so
isn't.
we have our churches and we have our community and we have our fellowship. But really, like, you know, you get a phone call from an addict still in the trenches and you have to send them 45 minutes a different direction.
Right.
Why can't we stay in our own community?
Yeah.
And so it's just building that.
Well, I like building that community.
Yeah.
So, and so I don't know. So my thought process on all of this is that she's kind of breaking a mold, you know, and I want everybody kind of to understand that she started out in addiction, you know, and moved forward and really just kind of tried to change. I'm not saying change the world, you know, but she changing her world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, isn't that what we want?
Yeah,
you know,
but I'm not doing it alone.
Right, but yeah, she got people behind her and
standing next to me.
It's you know, to me, I look at it and I think to myself, okay, you know, she was on parole, she had to go to prison, she got out, blah blah blah, but it's a success. Mm-hmm. She's still clean. She's got strength. She's doing what she needs to, and then, she's trying to change things that restrict those
growth,
right,
no
and
connections.
And you know, I think that the community doesn't see that very often about people in recovery, that they really invest themselves into not only themselves but into the community, you know.
Yeah.
So the support in that part, I think, you know, is lacking a little bit. You know, and I hate like pointing out like this is, you know, whatever, but there's a lack in the recovery part where people don't, because they don't understand.
Well, there's so you gotta have someone who's willing to break the mold. Yeah. You gotta have someone because like so think about this. There's a church in New York.
What? They got churches?
Right, they do. Times Square Church.
Yes.
Was planted by David Wilkerson.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who moved to New York from South Texas,
right?
Because he saw a newspaper article about 6 youth who were going to court. They were going to be arrested, and he was broken over that. And the Lord moved in his heart, and he went. David Wilkerson, as a young man, went. I say young man, he was in his middle age, and he goes to New York to advocate in the courthouse, unknown to these young boys.
Right.
And he's over there, and he's saying, no, they need something better than just throwing them away in prison.
Right.
And he advocated for that. And he went, and people said he's wasting his time, he's being ridiculous, there was no program like
it. And that's a mindset that needs to change.
Well, so
and that's why I think
he does that.
This conversation is.
And in the process, he decided to witness to these gangs on the streets, and in one of them, he met Nikki Cruz. Mm-hmm. And Nikki Cruz was the leader of one of the most violent gangs at the time in New York. And Nikki Cruz was the leader. I mean, he was a murderer.
Yeah. Right.
And David Wilkerson would not let up on this young man. Now, today, David Wilkerson passed away in 2011. Mm-hmm. So 2011 or 2014, I forget. I want to say 2011, but I'm probably wrong. But Nikki Cruz is now a Hispanic preaching evangelist that goes all over the globe and is just transforming so many lives. And he says the man who changed it was Wilkerson.
Right.
Wilkerson's been shot, stabbed multiple times on the streets of New York.
Yeah,
but he broke a mold.
Somebody has to.
And I think that's what's the important thing about doing community. We are very mindful of the time. Did you want to add anything?
So I just want to add one more thing. And so I am super honored, and I can't believe I forgot to mention this. So that Dr. Schleifer, who I told you that has been great, just working with and hearing my testimony and being willing to let me share my experience, offered me that position with working with the committee that she does. So like I said, they had up
Oh, that's
changing the
right.
policy for the DOC. So
Yeah.
they're working to build a better DOC. Like not
That's awesome.
and when I say better, I'm not saying that they're at fault. I'm saying what they're working to integrate families and children in that investment.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I was on the phone with her last week and she's like, remember that committee that I told you about while you're still in prison that I really think that you would be beneficial to being a part of? She goes, I would love it if at first you come in and you review our recommendations and you
Wow.
so I'm like, yeah, of course, so here I
huge.
am under the hand of the DOC. And for me, I have to see it as that I'm not even under their hand anymore. Like I'm like holding their hand, and I'm just kind of like showing them like, well, you can hold a little tighter because I'm gonna take you with me.
You went from being underneath them.
Yeah.
To now you're working with them and making the improvements.
Yes, and then now I just got offered to review these upcoming policy changes.
Wow.
And like and I'm so honored because to know that
They
value my experience and my opinion and my input and it's because again you have to be mindful and you have to be respectful and you have to be understanding and willing to understand your own faults and your own breaks to be able to push forward and see possibility for change.
Well, and see in my mind, the reason she is where she is because every day she chooses not to get high.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just
and
like
so it's and she's
absolutely.
been able to build to that point, like and I know I keep bringing it back to the addiction thing because I want everybody to understand that as an addict, you're a complete mess.
Yeah.
I almost swore. And so when you hit recovery and you start to actually move forward, there's so much more.
Yeah.
Like her story is not my story,
Right,
and
our story.
her path is not my path. But yeah, it's just. But I support.
Right.
Victoria's path because it's it's doing some. I love success.
Yeah.
And when I look at what she's doing, I see success. Even though she's only been out of prison for
a month and a half.
Right.
Seriously.
Yes, I got July 8th was my graduation.
Right. So, but there's a motivation to continue to and that's what recovery
and an appreciation.
Right. A gratitude.
Yeah. Even my agents let me be here. You know,
right.
Like,
that is huge.
Right.
You let them know that I'm so thankful that.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
But it is like the idea that we're more than our addictions.
Right.
Yes.
That is not our identity. It is more than that. And then two, the Bible says God uses all things for those who love Him and call upon His name.
Yeah.
So that idea of like, yes, going to prison was not the most pleasant thing in the world to go through.
But I wouldn't have the ground to stand on if I didn't have that experience.
Right.
Look what God has established for you.
There's a reason.
And the lives that you have never met, that you're changing because of the time that you were spent.
And they're
there.
changing me.
Yeah.
And
that was
the dual.
It is. It's what's the idea that
give and receive.
You're receiving the rewards for the hard work that you've done, as well as passing that on for others as well. Like that's the whole thing, and that is really beautiful.
Well, and the thing that I like is that she's not done. She's got her.
But wait, there's more.
Right. Her hard work is.
You will hear more.
Yeah, and so and to kind of bring that the community part of it in is that without support, without that let's take that fog out of her eyes and see an addict.
Yeah.
This she might not have been able to because there's a lot of people in like whatever like human services or whatever she had to deal with who had to take that fog off and be like, okay, she's an addict, she how can we help, what can we do, and that is so important in my mind that obviously the addiction, the addict has to take care of whatever they have to take care of, but as a community can we open our eyes and can we see these people and stop being ashamed and allowing this to continue on, because as soon as you start to shine light on some of it, they don't have room to move around,
Right,
and you might save somebody from having to go a little further.
Seeing the person before you see the addict.
Yes, and that goes even like with the peer recovery stuff, or like going to the club, or like just that fellowship. Like, like people are like, oh, maybe they feel embarrassed to ask for help.
Right.
When in a general sense, like going to the club, having fellowship, it's like the yellow book of pages for life, though. Like you find those added resources that you may not have been comfortable asking for, but they're there.
Right.
Peer recoveries, they're there. It's not, you can't be shameful for going to your church pastor, going to your members of your church family, or even just your local community gathering. Like you only gain that knowledge and that skill of knowing like how to maybe see how to walk differently.
Right. If you keep things in the dark, you can't change
it's
some of that. And if you, there's no reason to be ashamed. Right. There's no reason to feel any particular way that because the community part of it, the other, if you're not the addict, you're not doing anything wrong. Right. You know what I mean? It's okay. Like it's okay to feel a certain way about it, but you know what? If you don't, if you want it to change, quit keeping it a secret. Right. Secrets are no good. Right. Exactly. Let's open our eyes and I really believe in this community. I really do. I've seen some really good people in this community, and I would love to to talk to them, even some of them, but but we have there's a little dark belly inside of this community.
Well, and that's where you have to expose it. You have to confess it. You have to be open about it. And have.
That doesn't mean go run to the cops. No. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about
be there in general.
Right.
Know that you're
there. I'll say this,
and acknowledging to them, saying, "Hey, I know what's going on." Yeah. Because
it's not hidden in the dark.
Right. Let's not.
I see you.
Well,
I'm gonna do something.
Yeah.
Perfect.
As a pastor, my desire, what I want. Again, this is my community, and we got to close up right now.
Right.
Look at the clock. Okay. But no, my heart is to see people healthy and strong.
Yes.
My desire is for whole families.
Yes.
Right.
And so that means if you come to me, I'm not going to sit there and treat you like an agenda. I'm going to treat you like a person, and I'm going to say, I want to help you. I want to help you get what you need. Whether if I got the resources to do it myself, I will help you the best I can. If I can't do it, I will find the person who needs it.
The joy and connection.
On these videos, on the YouTube videos, you will see two numbers listed on these videos, and one is for the Albert Lee Mayo program number. The other is the Minnesota Adult Teen Challenge, and it's because we want to make sure that you have that access, and we may add more to that as times go on. Yeah. You're building connections. Yeah. You're part of this now, and so really excited about that. And so
I'm excited about that too. That's
it's gonna be lots of fun.
Yeah.
But you guys.
Well, because I mean, I can imagine that some viewers are like, "Yeah, these two old farts. What are they doing?" So
you say old farts.
So adding it.
I'm not even 40 yet.
Well. Okay, one.
I'm gonna pull the young can. I'm gonna play the young card when I still can.
You know what I mean. It just.
6 more months, man. Then I'll be 40 and I'll be up there.
Yeah, it's just that it adds to perspective and everything else. And I'm grateful that you have decided that you'd be willing to do that.
Yeah. It'll be really rewarding.
And the numbers. That's a good idea. I guess I never really thought much about that.
I want people. I want you to understand. We have these conversations. You listen to these conversations, but I don't want you just to be stuck. Just listening to us. I want to make sure that the resource numbers that we have, as some of the resources are discussed and brought up, we want to add those numbers so that you can make phone calls or visit websites so that you have visible tools. We're going to conclude it right here. She's on a line right now, but we are going to just kind of conclude it. Hello? Thank you so much for watching. You guys have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you.